Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Cosmic Perspective. In today's episode, I speak with Rob, a.k.a. Soft Spoken Glass on Instagram, and he makes water pipes and bowls out of glass, and it's super, super fascinating. His Instagram is filled, I'm looking at him right now, is just filled with some really cool pieces that I think you guys will really enjoy. So definitely follow him on Instagram and enjoy this podcast. I think you guys will really like it. We talk all about kind of glass blowing. He talks about his mentor and the time that his mentor actually almost died doing glass blowing. And it's just an interesting conversation. So without further ado, here is the podcast. Thank you, Robert, for coming on the podcast.
No problem. Happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Awesome. So just to give you a little introduction, I met you at Joey's, well, it wasn't Joey's art show, but I met you at the art show that Joey was performing his stuff, and you are a glass blower, and you had a bunch of really cool glass pieces, and you actually came and brought me a really awesome piece. I want to start with, how did you make this piece? And then get a little bit into, just your experience with glass blowing in general.
Sure. So that piece right there, it starts off as like a clear, what they call blank. So the blank is basically, if you picture like a PVC pipe. So picture like 4 inches of PVC pipe, about like 4 millimeters thick on the inside and, 4 inches, long. Mm-hmm. So what I do is I'll take a punty, what's called a blow tube punty. So I'll weld that up to there. Then I'll fill it with the frit, which is broken up glass. It's kind of like seesaw texture. So once you get that filled up in there, you kind of get it hot and it sticks to the inside of it. And once it's kind of stuck, you just nuke it, was what my friend says. You just get it super hot. You just, direct the flame where you need it to go. Like you'll shape this neck first, and then you'll get to the stem. And then once you get, all that done, you get the bowl part. And you start pushing holes into it and... Yeah.
So when you're referring to, you call it the frick?
Frit.
The frit.
Yeah. Yep.
So the frit is the little designs in here, the stuff that kind of gives it that extra look where it has like that various colors and whatnot. And where do you get the glass, like when you're making this? Like what's the glass starting from? Is it reused, like recyclable?
It's from a company that just, manufactures that color. There's over 700 different colors in glass at this point. They keep coming out with more. So yeah, it's awesome. It's like we're a kids in candy store with, so much to work with. So so that when they take the frit, they'll take it from a rod. So the rod is broken down and smashed up, turned into like basically salt, texture. Yeah. So that's frit. They fill it up in a little container and sell it to you by ounces. So you buy it by like 4 ounces or little 1 ounce jars, and you go from there.
And then you mix it in. So what about the the main? So you said the blank.
Yep.
Where do you get that? Does it come in as just like that cylinder, and you just order that from another company that also makes those kind of things?
Correct. Yeah, there's all sorts of. They come from Germany or from China. China's usually the cheapest kind of stuff.
Of course.
But,
yeah, of course.
But if you're starting out, like I've only been in this about 2 years, so you buy the cheaper stuff just because you're going to break it.
Of course.
You want to not spend buy the Mercedes and go learn how to drive. You kind of buy the Hyundai first before.
Yeah, of course.
So yeah, that's how.
How did you get into the apprenticeship? Because I'd imagine like that's the only way to learn glass blowing is through somebody who already is doing it.
Yeah, that's how I did it. So I was buying and like trading glass with one of my mentor, I should say. He goes by Pure Organic Glass on Instagram. His name's Paul Farley. So I was learning from him. I was just buying and selling glass, like his stuff. And then he offered to teach me because I wanted to learn. So once he offered to teach me, I was like, well, hell yeah, I'm down. Let's get into it. So I started doing that, kind of fell in love with it. And here we are 2.5 years later, just doing my thing, making pipes every day.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
What does an average day look like? From the top to the bottom, like how do you start out when you're starting your day?
So when I start I guess it's studio day, I get there, take everything out of the kiln that I had finished from the day before, make sure it doesn't need to go back in there so I don't have to work on it again, make sure stuff's not broken or it's got like a little blemish or something like that I need to polish off that I missed before I put it in there. So I'll do that, and then I'll usually think about what I'm going to do before I go in the next day. So like if either it's going to be pipes like spoons, or it's going to be pipes as Sherlocks or hammerhead kind of style, or mini tubes. So that whole day would be dedicated to that. So like yesterday I did all Sherlocks. So that's one of my favorite things.
For those of the people who don't know, a Sherlock is like a pipe that looks like something that you would see Sherlock Holmes smoking. It's got that cool, funky, curvy
kind of
design.
Fish hook kind of design.
Yep.
So yeah, it's nice. It's got the nice little, it fits nice in your hand, you know? It's
yeah,
weird.
It's something that you just feel cool chiefing on.
Yeah, exactly. You like want to put one of those little glasses on. I forget what they call. The little monocle. Yeah, exactly.
A monocle, yeah.
Yeah. So tomorrow I think I'm gonna do all mini tubes. So just like little 6-inch bongs maybe. So I'll probably do that. What I like to do is called fuming. So fuming is taking gold and silver and burning that in the flame, and then the fumes that come off from that stick onto the glass, and then you just either like put lines or dots on the blank. That's what you start off with. So then that's what you get. You get crazy designs out of it.
How do you put the lines on? Like, what's the process with that? What kind of tools do you use to guide
the lines? Is just more glass. So when I add a line or a dot, it's usually just using a clear rod. So sometimes I'll use like a 6mm rod or 7mm, or for like small dots I use like a 3mm. So like dots that are on that spoon, I use a 7mm at the end just to give it to kind of some texture and a little bit more to hold on to just in the rounded.
Are you talking about in the bumps here?
Yep, those bumps basically those are just dots that were on a rod, and so I'll take that.
Awesome.
For the fuming. You kind of use it as like a glue gun, like when you're using a glue gun, it kind of like strings out.
Yeah.
So basically, you get the rod hot and kind of just swipe it onto it, and you go line by line or dot by dot, kind of go in like a honeycomb pattern if you wanted to. So
okay, and so it gives it the extra globs. I'll have a picture on Instagram of this later, so if you guys want to see what this pipe looks like. But yeah, that's awesome, man. I think the whole thing about glass blowing in general is just like it's such an art. It's such an art form, and you really can do a lot with it. Surprisingly, despite like it's a dangerous thing to do, right? Like glass
breaking.
breaking.
With fire, yeah, you're playing with fire either and glass. So glass breaks and it's sharp, so it could either cut you or burn you when it's hot. So like I've ruined plenty of shorts and shirts from falling off the puntee and falling onto me.
Yeah. Oh man, have you had any major injuries from it?
Just little cuts and burns. But actually, my mentor almost died from blowing glass. He would never work. How it started was he had a stool that was right behind him, and he never would sit down and work. His mom bought him a stool, and she's like, "Oh, here, maybe you might like this." So he's like, I don't really like it. So it was kind of behind him while he was working, and he was working with like a blank that was maybe size of pipe. If I were to make a pipe, it's like 4 inches. So it's nice and hot. And he took a step back and he tripped on the stool, and I guess it made him black out because it like pinched a nerve in his leg or something like that. So next thing he knows is the can is on his chest, and his hand is like on top of it, and he wakes up and he's like on fire, and he like gets the can off of him. Mind you, it's stuck to his hand. He like his shirt's on fire, his shorts are on fire, so he rips everything off, and then like the can's stuck, and he's like he kind of shakes it and it doesn't come off, and then he shakes it again, and the medical term is degloving, so you can kind of just picture that.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
So it took a long time for him to recover to be able to blow glass again.
Health and mental, probably.
Yeah, I mean,
there's got to be a mental
going back
trauma.
into the studio that you like almost died in, and he drove himself to the emergency room. Like he was all by himself. Like what if he didn't wake up and the whole place caught on fire and he could have died. Hope his mom's house would have been ruined or something like that. But that was the house that was given to him. But
damn.
Yeah, so that's.
The
I always think
real.
of that. I think of that, and I think of him, and I'm just like, I'm so glad you're here still. Thank you for that, and just to be careful and just kind of take everything slowly. I mean, why rush something and get hurt, and then you're like, oh, well, that's there it is. Yeah,
and plus you ruin the work then too.
Yeah,
if you try to rush it and then the piece breaks or it doesn't shape in the way you want.
Exactly.
How far can you have it go in a bad direction, and like, can you fix your mistakes, and how often do you find yourself fixing mistakes while it's hot?
So I guess it depends on what I'm making, but while it's still hot, you still have that that workable time limit, before it cools down. But obviously you can reheat it again. But sometimes the glass itself, after it's been heated up so many times and like inflated and deflated, it kind of just loses its coefficiency, so it won't even react. So you kind of just like got to throw it away.
Yeah, you just toss it.
So it's kind of like, got to know what you got to do that step, move on to the next one, make sure you finish that step before you move on to the next one, so you're not backtracking. So it's all of like a tedious process to like go through. But it's once you do everything correctly, the next step works, properly, and it goes smoothly. So you're not like, oh, well, I didn't do it that part, now I got to go back and do this, and it kind of messed that up, and this is off aligned, and this is thicker than this area, and
then
so it's kind of like just going with the flow of everything. So that's what it is. If you think about the glass, it technically is a liquid at this temperature.
At that temperature,
it's solid. But once you get it hot, past I think it's like 2,000 degrees. Maybe I'm not exactly sure on those numbers, but when you put it in the flame, it eventually absorbs all that heat, and once it gets to its heat base where it turns into like honey, it's basically like a liquid. So you got to think about that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
you got to think about how it's morphing. What are some tricks that you've learned in the process that have helped you develop your own style? And would you say you have developed a distinct style? I know it's only been 2 years, but like in that time, do you feel like you're starting to figure out your own voice in there? Definitely.
So when I started off, I was making a lot of like dabber carb caps for smoking hash. So when I started off, my mentor and I, he was doing some kind of like twisted themes. So he was like twisting everything he was doing, kind of giving it just not some straight look, but kind of like curved and almost looks like a spiral. So I was making basically what if you'd see like a glass icicle. So it's just like a little spiral. So I was making those spirals and like a cap for the bottom of it, like a flat surface. So you put it on your quartz banger, and when you smoke the hash at a lower temperature in the banger, it vaporizes at a lower temperature because of science. It's under vacuum. So it's funny how that works out. Before all this low temp, dabbing or whatever came around, everyone was getting their nail hot, putting it on there, scorching their, they're kind of losing, they're losing the flavor from their oil.
Oh, totally.
Also like burning their throats. They were also getting, very high, I guess.
Yeah, like stupid high. Ripped. Dude, fucking dabs are too much for me. I can't do them.
I mean, if you think about it, my buddy just came back from Colorado, and he had this stuff. It's called THCA. So that's like the main cannabinoid that's in the most like narcotic, I guess, part of the plant. So that's a concentrated part, and it looks like meth. It looks like a crystal. Like, if you got pulled over with this, like you would automatically get thrown on the ground. And like, what is this? Even with CBD, it's kind of weird how some CBD looks like that. But it's just THC, and you kind of like mix it in with your herb, the actual plant matter part, or you put it on another dab. And man, that's just stuff. It's just too strong almost.
Yeah,
But he gave me a couple of them, and I was on my ass, almost like falling asleep. I had to get up and walk around and stuff. But if your tolerance isn't up there, I don't suggest
don't
or just taking a very, very little bit just to get the little feeling of it. But
you have to ease your way into dabs. Dabs are not. Don't fuck around with dabs.
It's too potent sometimes. I mean, it's
concentrated
THC.
I prefer herb, man. I'm an herb guy. I am.
I mean, it's hard to beat a joint too. Like how I started off, and now with bowls, I can make my own bowls now. So I love going back to bowls.
Right. I like hitting bowls. I like hitting vapes. That right there, that's the Air Riser Extreme Q.
That was,
that thing's the shit. Fills up bags, not nearly as expensive as Volcano. It's not as good as a Volcano, but it's a pretty good knockoff. And plus, it's by a brand that is like known for their vapes too. It's not like there's some weird off-brand. Air Riser has the Solo. It's like their portable one.
Right.
It's kind of big. It looks almost like the handle of a lightsaber.
Yeah.
And then it has the straw coming out of it.
I guess if you compare the size of a Volcano, it's just like that Volcano thing's pretty big.
It's pretty big. Yeah. This is like a smaller version of that, and it does the job, man.
It's great. Yeah. It's like combusting. You're vaporizing at that point. So You're not like burning your throat. You're getting
Yeah.
like not a different high, but it's almost
It
different.
is a different high.
It's like,
Yeah.
I mean, you're getting to that one point, but you're also not ingesting all the other parts that are inside
Yeah.
of it. So
And the cool thing, it actually goes into what you were talking about with the dabs, is that vaping at different temperatures releases a different ratio of THC to CBD. So, you can get a different high by using the same vape, but at different temperatures. And that's something that I've been playing with for a while, is like playing with the different temperatures and just seeing how that effect can really vary. And I find the lower temps, I can like do work and stay focused. And the higher I get, the closer I get to combustion. That's when it gets more of kind of like the foggy type high.
In the couch kind of.
Yeah, exactly. The couch lock.
Yep.
But yeah, man, it's dope. I think glass blowing in general is something I've always been fascinated with. I don't know if I could do it, but I am so enamored with just the whole process of it. So what do you see yourself doing with glass blowing, like long term? Like what do you hope that you can make in the future with your skills as they develop?
Honestly, I would love to make just like huge sculptures.
Yeah.
I used to be into ceramics. So in high school, I did that for like 3 years. I was pretty good with making like pots on the wheel and stuff. But I was actually really drawn toward just making sculptures. Like I made one of our projects was like kind of an opposite theme. So I made like a person sitting on a chair and then like a chair sitting on a person. Like it was a person chair.
Yeah.
Like the legs were like, it's kind of more...
Like that Rick and Morty episode.
I'm not into that show. I love that show. I've loved everything about it. I don't watch it too much because I don't even watch TV that much. But,
yeah, I don't watch TV that much either, honestly. But
it's so distracting. So I'll get stuck. I'll get stuck on the couch, watch TV over and over.
Yeah,
again.
you end up just binge watching shit.
Exactly, and it's bad, and I know I have work to do. So
yeah.
But it's just at my point right now where I just have so much studio time available. It's like I don't take time for anything else almost. But also that is for me just to hone my skills, just get better at what I'm doing and just take advantage of my situation that I have. So
yeah, having a good mentor is so key.
It really is. I mean, the guy's been in it for 17 years. I'm only in it for 2 years, and I still have 50. I'm not even at his level yet, so I got 15 years, and even at that point, he's going to have 15 more years on me.
On you again, yeah.
Yeah, so there are people who've been in it for a while. They kind of pioneered the whole fuming thing. There's an old guy, his name's Bob Snodgrass. He's the kind of guy who found that out. He accidentally put some silver in his flame and it got stuck onto the glass, and he would sell his glass, and someone came back and was like, look, it's blue now, and what it used to be like white or something like that. And he's like, oh, I know what did that. And he almost didn't tell anybody about it, but he's like, why shouldn't I just tell every glass blower I run into? Yeah. So now everyone credits him for his,
he's the founder of it.
There's a saying on Instagram. It's well, I guess it's not just Instagram, but it's thank Bob for your snotty. Because like pipes used to be called Snodgrass pieces before they were even like borosilicate, pipes, I guess.
Yeah. No, those are the color changing.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the whole fuming. He kind of started that off, but
that's crazy.
Yeah, so I just want to get better at glass blowing, just keep doing it. The whole, just doing it in general is just something that I like doing. I like working with my hands. I used to work on cars and diesel trucks, so not having to have a boss telling me what to do and like be able to make something different every day and not just working on a Ford Escape over and over again.
Yeah.
It's freeing almost. I feel like this is what I was supposed to do. So that's why I'm just trying to keep making this dream happen and kind of keep it going. So,
dude, that's awesome. So when would you say that you started falling into that category of like working with your hands and stuff? Because you just said you worked on cars and like what had you shifting in that direction? Was there like a moment as a child where you just were working with your hands and that kind of just clicked?
It was kind of probably for my dad almost. My dad was always working on stuff. He was always working on cars or just building things with, the tools he's got, just out of wood or whatever metal. He knows how to weld, so he's doing stuff out of metal. So I was almost like with him all the time and trying to learn stuff. And I guess that's just where, it stemmed from. And then once I got to high school and I was doing the ceramics, the whole art side came from it. I'm just like, oh, now I've, experiencing all these people who are just putting out this amazing work. And you kind of just fall into an abyss of like art everywhere, and you kind of trying to take, inspirations from everything. So that's what I've been trying to do is like take things that I've learned from everyone else and just apply it to my stuff.
Yeah.
So
Great artists steal, man. I really believe that. If there's good ideas, like if you steal enough different ideas from different things, it's going to be its own thing by the end of it. So it's all about taking it and putting your own personal spin on it.
Exactly. You don't want to like exactly steal from someone. You're just kind of like taking
an idea,
what they're doing, and you're like, well, I could apply this to what I was doing, and you always give credit where it's due. So,
and you could like wear your influences on your sleeve, and
definitely. And people will notice too if they know, what kind of glass artist you're into, and it kind of shows up into your work. You're like, oh, he likes that guy, and so do I. So I credit him for, trying to be like him, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's it's fun, man. I really love it. I feel blessed to go to the studio every day.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's great.
Dude, you really can't ask for much more than that, honestly. Like being able to just every day feel like you're doing something that not only do you enjoy doing, but something that you feel like you were meant to do. You feel like you were born to do it.
And, it makes me a little bit of money, so it's paying the bills and all that stuff. So.
Dude, that's an even cooler part. I still have to figure out a way to make money off of my passions.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to like find something that you really love and be like, well, can I make money out of this?
Can I monetize it? Yeah.
This more of what I'm doing is like, making products and selling products, but it's like making cool products and selling cool products to people who are actually enjoying them. That's like one of my favorite parts of someone taking some of my work, even a simple like little pendant. I just take it and wear it around everywhere, and someone's like, oh, that's so cute, or whatever you're wearing.
What's
like,
what's
where'd
the
you
origin?
get that? Yeah, like, well, that's a cool color. Like what I like to use are these colors that are coming out that are changed in different lighting. So like in a natural LED, an LED and like sunlight, it'll be like a yellow or something like that. And then you put it into a fluorescent light, where you don't see fluorescent lights too often, but if you do, it'll be a whole different color. It'll be like from yellow to pink, or from blue to purple, and green to blue. It's even crazy that they can just do that just by mixing different metals and chemicals inside of the glass, but that's what
Yeah.
We're lucky.
Dude, light's a
have
tricky
something
thing
like that.
too.
Yeah, exactly.
Because light is like you're not even really. You're like seeing a reflection of the light that's going into the photoreceptors in your eye. Like the color you see is not exactly what we're seeing, and yet you still see it in that way, which is kind of crazy.
Definitely.
Super trippy stuff. So I want to talk to you a little bit about the actual show, because I talked about it on a previous podcast about going to the show. And like, what was your experience? So being one of the people who set up, had their thing, got to talk with people, what kind of experiences did you have there?
So I obviously met you.
Yep, right.
I met tons of people from all over the place, and it's kind of funny because they walk by and they're like, "Oh, there's pipes there," and it's like even like the old, like I shouldn't say older, but like elderly people were like, "Oh wow, look, there's a pipe right there," and we got to talk to them, and they're like, "Oh, it's just not pipes. There's like a wine glass or a goblet that I made that was on the raffle, and I make other pendants too, or like ornaments. So it wasn't just like the pipes, So it was funny that I got to show off both sides of them. They're like, well, what do you put in the pipe? Like, what do you think?
What do you think, dude?
Come on, I'll give you one guess. But my experience was great. I got to see more work from people that I've never even seen before. Like this one guy, I'm bad with names, but he was doing like clay sculptures, a lot of faces. So I got to meet him, and I was like really into his stuff.
Was that the one with like the goblin looking things?
Yeah, he was upstairs. Yeah. See, I didn't get to, my booth was so busy. Luckily, that was awesome. But I didn't get to check out most of the show. So I missed out like the magician. I missed his work, like all the fashion show, like everything else. I
missed some of the stage stuff. I saw some of the like dancers and stuff, but I did see all of the different setups on like the upper floor and then like the upper floor. This thing was a multi-level. This is like a multi-level thing. You were in the basement with Joey.
Yep.
Which I liked that it was away from the music, because the music was kind of loud at times, like with the performance in the stage. But then above there was a stage, and then there's like a balcony type seating. I'm just describing it for the audience here, but like there's like that balcony seating where there's basically different pieces everywhere, and no matter where you walk, there was bars on every level, because it's originally a bar. And it's just a really cool venue. Honestly, that show like blew me away, because I was not expecting it to be as cool as it was.
It was awesome. I was so excited when I've never even heard of Rosh, the
raw artist,
artists in general. So when they contacted me through Instagram, I was like, well, yeah, I'll definitely be part of this. This is awesome. And then I just met more people that that make music, or just painters or graphic designers. There's just so much to offer. Jewelry. A lot of the girls had so much beautiful jewelry. I wish I could have bought some stuff, but
Right?
yeah.
Dude, I was so close to buying. So there was this one girl, Angela, I think is her name, and she made these like city pictures, so pictures of the city, but then she would like as a separate layer, maybe in Photoshop or something, had like space as the background. So it would either be like the stars that maybe you would see in the sky, or it would straight up be like a nebula, something that obviously would not really be behind it. And she had these cool like mixes of it, and it was printed on metal. And so it had like a holographic color to it, you know, like one of those Pokemon cards
That's
from
awesome.
back in the day. And that was epic. And she's got some stuff on Instagram. I think it's called Angie Star Photo, I want to say. I followed her on Instagram, and she makes like interactive pieces. That's
awesome.
somebody who I kind of want to get on the podcast too, honestly.
Like hearing more things, like my family went to the show and some friends, and they were telling me about it. I'm like, well, I missed that. I missed this. Now you're telling me more things.
You had to be at your booth,
I had
man.
to work. Yeah. Oh, I did.
Yeah.
It was awesome. Like I had so much fun by my booth. My friends were bringing me drinks and stuff, so I didn't have to go anywhere.
Yep.
I was just like, only time I left was to go to the bathroom. So, so I went to the bathroom, came back, and there was more people at my booth. Luckily, I had a friend who was helping me.
Yeah.
And she didn't get too drunk, so that's what I was happy about.
Yeah, right. You were like
no,
I need you to be here enough.
Don't break anything, please.
Yeah, seriously.
But no, she did really well, and she was just really happy to like be there and just like help out. So I was really happy that she was there.
Yeah, that's super dope, man.
Yeah, that's great.
I have another question about glass in general.
Sure.
So I'm sure you've like been in stores and they have the glass. They're like, this glass is so durable, I can just throw it. And then they just throw it on the floor and it doesn't break. So what is the difference between that kind of glass and then like the typical glass you might find in like a $10, $15 pipe?
Really the thickness. Sometimes, I mean, even I've seen guys that make their thick pipes or whatever, then throw it on the ground like, oh, it's not going to break, and then it breaks. I mean, it's glass. I mean,
it's
you
still
can't
glass.
just, it's like there's nothing special put into it other than just making it thicker, making it proportional and like consistent.
Yeah,
so
no
like,
weak points.
Exactly. So if there's like a stress point in there, it's going to break right there.
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't break because it landed on one spot, like let's say if it landed on the head of that bowl and it just hit one of the little bubble parts, it might not break, but if it hits like the mouthpiece where it's like hollow or
it's
probably
going to
open,
break there,
it might break.
Yeah.
Or if it hits like the center of it, it might break, but it might not, So
yeah,
it might just have a little scratch.
It's the luck of the draw, really.
Yeah, so there's nothing really special into it. Some of those cheaper pipes are just made thinner.
Yeah.
And then they're just using
less material.
In a lower quality glass, maybe sometimes.
The Chinese glass.
The Chinese glass. But sometimes their glass is decent. So
yeah.
You can't really discredit it. But as far as like price-wise, they are the cheaper version. Option, I should say. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that makes sense. How does like the pricing go into it? Because like every time I've ever been into a shop, it's like it's always negotiable to a point. So like, how do you sell to the store itself?
So you have a wholesale cost and then a retail price, I guess. So you really just sell them at you make your wholesale price and you sell it to them at that, and they either double or triple it sometimes.
Yeah, depending on what they think they can make.
Yeah, so that's why there's always
a little room.
We can work with you.
Yeah.
Or cash is king kind of thing. You know? So the price of the materials, you kind of just
factor it in.
Yeah, and then your time and like you got to include the electricity for keeping your kiln on. You got the oxygen and propane. A lot of it goes into it, but it's not too much. And then how much you value your time. Some guys value their time at like $150 an hour for something so small, or like mine is a $20 bowl that took me 10 minutes, So
Yeah.
Like, why? I don't like to gouge people out of their money. I'd rather them have the piece than them be like, oh, well, I have to work 3 weeks to get that, that piece from you or something like that because I have a budget,
Because you want it to be used. You're literally making functional art that is going to be used by the people. It's not going to just be people can sit and admire it, but ideally they're also using it. So It makes sense that you wouldn't want it to just go to waste and just be sitting in a store or something.
Yeah, and I guess calling, some people will be like, well, this isn't art, it's just a little spoon or whatever, it's just...
I disagree.
It's what I was going to say, it's in the eye of the beholder, I guess, so to say. But, mixing colors and techniques, that all comes into hand with art, so it's not just like a craft. Oh, I just made a pipe, and it's got some color into it. No, I thought about it. Putting these dots on there, I knew it was going to amplify the color underneath it. So that's art perspective in there. So
Yeah,
it definitely is art.
it
Even
is
if
art.
It's just like a simple pipe.
What's the craziest thing that you've made with glass? It doesn't have to be a pipe.
So I've made some it's really hard because it was just really thin and fragile. So I tried to make, actually for the show, I tried to make my name, Soft Spoken Glass, in like the rod kind of form.
Mm-hmm.
So it looked like a little stand sign,
Yeah.
but that thing broke on me. So, yeah, so I didn't get to bring it to the show, but that would have been cool.
So that was
But
probably
that's
the
really
most complicated.
Yeah, I made some other pieces that are like 15 different sections and that, but as far as like extravagant large pieces, like that was kind of like the only
That was
thing.
kind of the biggest thing.
Yeah, I try to spend my time that I know I can sell the piece at them, at a reasonable price.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to like sit on a piece for forever.
For too long, yeah.
One, I'd love to dedicate my time to that, but when that time comes, I would be able to, so.
Yeah, you'll hit that point. I mean, like 2 years in, right? It's like you'll hit that point where you can do that and you can spend that extra time and you're going to make some dope piece that you know is going to sell.
Yeah, like I have some ideas in mind. Like I was looking at, I had this old piggy bank and it's a gargoyle I got from like my Washington, D.C. trip when I was in 8th grade or something like that. And I was like, you know what? That's hollow. I can make a little bong out of that or something like that. So I was like, I should try to recreate a little gargoyle, rig or, pipe or whatever. So you can take inspiration from anything. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
How would you make like percolators and stuff? What's the process of that?
So those are either like holes or slits, so it's like either the end of it's got a saw cut kind of slit into it, or just like they popped a hole through it and then they added more holes, or they kind of like, there's a thing called a stringer perk where it's just like an open hole and then you take a small like string like piece of glass and kind of just use a small heat like flame and kind of just draw over that, and it makes like a little slit. Sometimes you can do it in a cross hatch, so there's like 4 holes instead of just 2. But yeah, there's so many different varieties of perks. There's so many like scientific apparatus companies that are out there. They have all these like tree perks and like stereo perks, and they make tons of bubbles inside of them. So that's just more of I've never even made something like crazy like that, but
yeah, I mean it seems difficult.
A lot goes into it. It's all a process. So
because like I had a pipe in Florida that was like it's a tree perk. And I'm just like, how the fuck did they get this in here? How did you make this piece in the center and then make the tube around it? Like, that's the part that blows my mind. And it had an ice catch, too, which means it's, like, stuck in there.
Those are, like, if you're talking, like, a full-size tube, most of those are made on a lathe. So it's, like, a machine that's spinning it, and you're just doing all the work to it while it's spinning on the machine. So you don't have to use your hands to rotate everything. You're more just relying on the machine to hold it and rotate it, and then you kind of move your flame to where you need it to be heated. And with that stuff, you can kind of move the piece into the other one without even having to hold it, because there's a machine. So that's how you get like, oh, how did you get that inside of there with that? Because like, oh, well, machine kind of held it.
Machine held it in place so that you could do the rest of the stuff. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah,
that makes more sense.
But that's just like working smarter, not harder.
Yeah, and I'm all for that, dude. Use technology to your advantage.
Exactly.
I'm a big believer in that.
Why not use it? So
hell yeah. What about the sculptors? So like you've been into sculptures and you want to make larger pieces in the future. What did you have in mind of like the type of things that maybe your skill's not there yet, but that you'd like to do?
I like the human form. I'd like to make like just different creatures, almost kind of like, for example, like
humanoid type?
Yeah, or something like from Lord of the Rings, like
like orcs or
exactly, like an orc, something crazy, like different. That's not like just like a human being face, whatever, trying to be realistic. That would be cool too, because there's so many colors that are like skin tone, and you can just make a realistic human almost. But there's other guys that are doing it out there and kind of proving that. So
yeah,
but yeah, I'd love to like work on something like that, just where you're like, oh, you can even smoke out of this. Like, yeah, you definitely can.
Right? Yeah, you find a way
So-
to like engineer it so that it is smokable.
Yeah, or like making a little Kermit, like that Kermit that's on your ledge right there.
Oh, you mean that guy over there?
Exactly. You can make him. You can smoke out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
In case you were wondering why I have that, it's because of that voice.
that's awesome.
But yeah, man, the whole thing is just so fascinating to me. I really like the idea of people putting their creative efforts into something so unique and difficult, and something that I think people from thousands of years ago would have been like mind blown. Because like, when did glass blowing even really start? Like obviously in its modern form it maybe is different, but like, when did the first like ancient
Yeah, I mean,
glass blowing?
I don't know too much about like the history of it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, obviously, there's a lot that happened in like Italy, like Murano, Italy is like
Mm-hmm.
there's like that whole culture that's where a lot of the glass came from. So they were doing all their like stemware, which is like the goblets or kind of like vase style kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know where it came from before that. So I'm not exactly sure
Right?
about
It's
that.
like, that's
but
some fascinating shit. I just wonder how do they get started? How do people figure out what temperature you could do it at? The
Right.
same thing you'd wonder about like forging weapons and
Right.
swords. Like,
Like-
where do blacksmiths come from?
I feel like if I heat this, material at this temperature and then, get it to this, like, oh, it's turning liquid. What if I put some air through it?
Yeah.
It'll be hollow. And like, oh, shit. Well, all right. Well, there's glass, and there's
Yeah.
an empty bottle. And we can put liquid inside this, something like
It's
that.
like what you said about the silver, the fuming is like, that was an accident. So
Mhm.
I'm sure a lot of things have been discovered by accidents,
Definitely. Yeah.
just people just fucking around.
Just trying stuff out. And they're like, we need some kind of way to put water. So they made like a little bowl or something like that. I mean, it comes from like the Indians making clay pots. They
Mhm.
find stuff in the dirt, using that, and it's putting. And they're like, oh, maybe we put this in the fire. It might get harder or something like that. And they figure
Yeah.
that out. Yeah.
Have you seen Primitive Technology?
Not that I know.
It's
as
a
far
YouTube
as-
channel.
Oh,
And it's
okay.
this dude who's like lives in Australia, and he literally makes like ancient types of technology of like what ancient tribal humans used to make. So he like
That's
made
awesome.
his own little kiln and made his own pots out of mud and clay that he literally grabbed from the ground. It's like fascinating. It's so calming to watch it.
Wow, now I need to watch it.
Dude, it's crazy, man. It's honestly crazy because it just goes to show you that they didn't have to know the science of it to have learned the technique, but it still makes you wonder, like, how did they know how long they needed to hold these things in there? And like, he builds this kiln out of just the dirt and mud and clay
Mhm.
and kind of like sets it up and then stokes fires in it and heats it up and then puts his stuff in to make more. It's like crazy.
It's just
Crazy.
trial and error. Someone's got to be willing to spend the time to try something out, and they might be called an idiot afterwards, or they might be a genius.
Yep.
It's like
It really
That's-
depends on whether it's successful,
Yeah.
on which term you get labeled.
definitely. I mean, it's worth a shot. Why not try to figure out something if you have nothing? If you need the solution to something, anything's better than what
Than
wasn't-
not trying at all.
Exactly. You need
Yeah.
the mission to be done. We need to figure something out for the mission. It's,
Yeah, shoot the shot, man.
it comes out, I guess, to that. We're just like basic human necessities, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So just making Tupperware,
Yeah.
something to put water in again, so it's like, it goes back to that. Just simple things. And then it comes back to here. It's like, oh, if we put a perk in there, we can smoke out of it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
A natural evolution of it. Well, dude, I really appreciated this conversation. I thought this was really fun, and I definitely want to have you on, and maybe even have your mentor come in. I think that'd
Yeah.
be pretty dope too.
Sweet. I'd be down for that. I'll
Yeah.
talk to him. I'm sure he's all the way up in Michigan, but
Yeah.
I'll talk to him. See
All right,
if he's
man.
down.
Sounds good. Well, thanks, Robert, and I'll have some links in the description. But how can people follow you?
I'm on Instagram, Soft Spoken Glass, and then same thing on Snapchat. So I'm there. I don't have like an official website up or anything like that, but that's where you can find me.
All right, awesome. Bye.